Welcome in to another episode of Three's a Crowd. I'm Preston Vargas back here once again. Before we get started, don't forget to hit a like and share this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, the college football playoff starts tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern with the Alabama Crimson Tide and Oklahoma Sooners playing in the first game of the playoff. You have till then to fill out your college football playoff bracket and join our group. That link is in the description below. Let's get started with the video. So we'll start with the NFL first as the Seattle Seahawks came back from 16 points down to steal the one seed from the Los Angeles Rams. Now, watching this game, we thought that Sam Darnold might have been washed, or not washed, but he couldn't win the big one. That was the big storyline. It was the storyline when he lost to the Rams the first time around a couple weeks ago. But Sam Darnold had 270 yards, two touchdowns, two picks. But with that 16 points down in the fourth quarter, you get the punt return for Shaheed, 58-yard return, and then you had the touchdown pass to Barner, then that wacky two-point conversion, which we'll come to in a minute. But that's a good win for the Seattle Seahawks. So take a look at the NFC playoff picture. Seattle did clinch a playoff spot. They're now 1.5 games in the one seed behind the Chicago Bears, who play the Packers. That's a game we'll preview in our next block. But Seattle's looking good now for the number one seed, and I expect them to. They pretty much control it now with the tiebreakers. So I'll take a look. Let's take a look at their remaining schedule. So the Seahawks have the Panthers and Niners. Those are two tough opponents, especially for the Panthers sandwiched in between those crucial NFC South games with the Bucks. That'll be a huge tell for both those teams. And for the Rams, they got let me pull it up. The Falcons and Cardinals, two eliminated teams. So a little bit of a softer landing. But if you ask me, who's going to win the NFC West and probably get the one seed, I think it's going to be the Rams because of their soft landing to end the season. Let's remember, Seattle that was think it was Seattle's last home game of the season. And it was an emphatic one at best. They want to keep hosting home games, but you got to go on the road against two teams that are fighting for playoff spots at this time. So going on the road, I think you're bound to lose one, maybe two of those games. But right now, I would say the Los Angeles Rams have the easier path to the one seed. And now let's get into that 2 point conversion for Seattle. So if I remember right, it was late in the fourth quarter where they needed to tie the game. So Darnold passed to Barner for the touchdown. They go for two. So at first it was Darnold threw to Charbonnet, was incomplete. But upon replay review, they ended up reversing the call because just ever so slightly the ball drifted back. And by rule, that's a fumble. So it hit the Rams player in the head. I forgot which player it was, but just him in the back of the head just rolls into the end zone, picked up by Seattle for the 2 point conversion. By letter of the law, it is technically a 2 point conversion, but I don't know. That just didn't feel right. I think they'll probably look at that rule change in the offseason. Now let's get in to my team, the Chicago Bears, taking on the Green Bay Packers for the second time in less than 2 weeks. Now we all remember what happened when they went up to Lambeau Field last time. Bears fall behind early, 14-0 at halftime, storm back in the second half. Josh Jacobs scores a touchdown late. Caleb drives him all the way down to the field, and on a 4th and 1 throws an interception on a great play to Keyshawn Nixon. But the tables have turned. The Bears now back home facing the Packers in what could be the winner of this one will probably win the NFC North. So buckle up. This one's going to be a great one. Obviously, we have Micah Parsons. He's out for the season after getting hurt against the Broncos, a non-contact injury, which it sucks for him, but there's going to be no excuses for the Bears. Even though we have two receivers out, Luther Burden and Rome Odunze, they were ruled out yesterday with injuries. In Rome, they activated him on Sunday, but they deactivated him because he reactivated his foot injury. So hopefully he gets healthy in time for the playoffs. Same thing with Luther Burden. But I think this is a must-win game for the Chicago Bears. You don't want to fall into a hole, which looking at the last three games, you got the Packers and on the road at San Francisco, tough game. The Lions at home is a tough game as well. So a tough three-game stretch, but this is the one I think we can win. We can win this one. And I think the other two games are winnable, but are tough. I have no doubt with Ben Johnson we can go in and win our remaining three games. But you have to win this one to prove it. Also, the Bears clinch a playoff spot with a win and a Lions loss to the Steelers on Sunday. So I think for the keys for the Bears to win, the run game. You got to run the ball down their throats. It worked well in the second half. You didn't do that well in the first half. You didn't really run the ball in the first few drives, which, in my opinion, cost us the game. Also, defense, we got to limit the explosive plays. We got some guys coming back. DeMarco Jackson's doing well, filling in for those injured linebackers, but we got to limit the explosive plays. And the thing with we were missing Kyler Gordon, he got hurt in warmups, which costs us when you're game planning with Kyler Gordon the whole week, and then suddenly prepare surprisingly not to have him, then that's gonna throw a wrench in things. But I think a full week of practice with the guys that you have, hopefully no one gets hurt in warmups or anything. But I think the full week of practice, you got the game plan set. I think the explosive plays will be limited. And the Packers, I think Christian Watson was trending toward being out. I think he might be trending toward playing. I'll have to double check that. I'm not 100% sure. But Christian Watson was responsible for two big time touchdowns for the Packers in the first matchup. And he is questionable with that chest injury he suffered last week at Denver. So we'll see if he ends up playing. But I think our pass rush needs to step up. Montez Sweat needs to step up in a big way for us to hopefully get the win. And I think we're going to win this one. Final score prediction: Bears 31, uh, Packers 21. Let's bear down and get this win. Now let's move on to the AFC side of things. We'll start with Sunday, a big matchup in the AFC. This is a 4:05 game, not 4:25, which it should be moved to 4:25. But that's for the networks to decide. But anyway, the Jaguars and Broncos, big game in the 4 o'clock window. The winner, I think Denver could clinch the number one seed if they win and the Patriots lose. The Patriots play later that night, which we'll preview that game also. But the Jaguars have an impressive season under first year head coach Liam Cohen. Trevor Lawrence balling out. He had six total touchdowns in the win against uh, the New York Jets. Some say it's the Jets, but last through last couple games, 36 points, 48 points scored. That's a great uh, that's a great offensive performance against the Colts in the rain. Trevor Lawrence had two touchdown passes. Obviously, you're not going to throw the ball as well in the rain, but still a solid effort from him in a blowout. Defense, they've only allowed 20 an average. The highest amount was 24 the last month. That was an overtime win against the Arizona Cardinals, but the defense for Jacksonville's coming alive this during the last 5 games of the season. And with the remaining schedule, you got Denver, the Colts on the road, and the Tennessee Titans. If you can go into Mile High and beat Denver, something the Packers didn't do last week, you can prove yourself that you're a contender in the AFC. Now, the Broncos are a very good team. They've won their last 11 games. So, they weren't pretty wins, but it's no fluke going 11 straight wins. Sean Payton knows how to win. You have this matchup, then you have the matchup at Kansas City, then home against the Chargers. So, I think the Broncos they'll win the NFC West if they win this game, I think. Because the Chargers, actually no, the win if they win, the Chargers lose to the Cowboys earlier in the day, then they'll the Broncos will win the AFC West. So I think this is a more of a crucial game for Jacksonville, in my opinion, if they go on the road and win a big game in a hostile environment. We haven't really seen that from this group before. Trevor Lawrence won a playoff game against the Chargers back in 2022. And obviously the Broncos, they with Bo Nix, they haven't won a playoff game yet. But I think Sean Payton's the right guy to lead the charge for this team. For my score prediction, right now the spread is Denver by 3.5. In my opinion, Jacksonville, I think, covers that. But I think Denver is gonna pull it out just slightly. But Jacksonville will show a lot of fight in this one. Now our Sunday night game, the Patriots and Ravens. Obviously, the Patriots' long win streak was ended at the hands of the Buffalo Bills, but I think the Patriots are still top of the division by a game. So I think the Patriots they've got a good shot, but the Buffalo Bills are playing their best football right now, and it showed a lot for them to come back from 21 nothing down in the game to come away with the win. But you're playing Lamar Jackson, this Baltimore Ravens team, and the Ravens have a solid defense with Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, all those guys. So the Ravens, let me see what the point spread is. Ravens by 3. I'll take the Ravens in this one. Drake May, solid season so far, but this is where the gauntlet comes in. This is your last tough game before you play on the road at the New York Jets, which is a rivalry game. You can't really look at records so far in this with those matchups. The Dolphins at home to end the season. So it's doable, but you have to win this game. And unfortunately, I think New England's going to win this one. For Baltimore, they fell behind after losing at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are now 8-6. Um, but Baltimore right now, I think they got a tough schedule. In addition to playing the Patriots, you play the Green Bay Packers on the road and Pittsburgh Steelers, so it's a must-win game for them. Going on the road to Lambeau, not an easy feat. So, in my opinion, this is a must-win game for them. Must win for both these teams. That's why it's going to be such an intriguing watch on Sunday. And I think it might be the game of the week. So, like I said, Ravens win that one. Now we'll move on to college football. And don't worry, we'll get into our bracket picks at the end of the show. But we'll preview some games in depth. Alabama taking on Oklahoma in a big matchup. Both these teams played each other last month, actually, when they played in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma won that game 23 to 21. And I saw this stat where Alabama has not lost to the same opponent twice in a season since 1891 when they lost to the Birmingham Athletic Club in twice in a season. An institution that no longer exists, by the way. So Oklahoma has a chance to make history, do something that has been done since then. So right now, Alabama, it opened with Alabama favored by one. Lines move slightly to Oklahoma by 1.5. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup. I won't make my game pick for this one. I'll save that for the college football for for college football playoff bracket reveal. So I think it's going to be a tight one, and I think it'll come down to the final possession. That's all I'm going to say. And then we go to the Saturday slate, Alabama and Texas A&M, or sorry, Miami and Texas A&M, the 10 seed coming into to College Station. Marcel Reed versus Carson Beck. This is going to be a very great matchup. And right now, A&M favored by 3.5. So obviously Miami got in controversially over Notre Dame. Some would say that they did honor the tiebreaker was which was the right thing, but we'll see what happens here. Now, if Texas A&M can knock off Miami, they would I think they would be their first playoff win. I don't think they qualified last year, but Miami also won the playoff for the first time. The question is, can Carson Beck win a big one? That was the thing about when he was at Georgia when they lost to in the Sugar Bowl last year to Notre Dame. Carson Beck didn't play as well, and he's shown this season throwing a couple interceptions against Louisville and SMU in losses, which probably cost the Hurricanes some seeding in that in the order, and barely it almost cost them a college football playoff berth. So the question is, which Carson Beck will we see? If we see a good Carson Beck against Texas A&M, that's going to be the one. I think that'll be the one where Miami could triumph. But if Texas A&M's defense comes up, then I think they'll win. We'll see what happens to that one. And then we got Tulane and Ole Miss, the group of five representative Tulane against Ole Miss. So, and these two teams played each other in the fourth game of the season, where Ole Miss won by 35. Now, in my opinion, this argument of letting group of five teams in, why they shouldn't be in is ridiculous. The group of five is an integral part of college football. I was a fan of a group of five team when UCF was in it for years and wanting to get our chance, and we finally did. So I think that 2017 team for UCF could have beaten Alabama, in my opinion. They did beat Auburn and Georgia, or they beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl, who beat the national champion Alabama in that year. But I think definitely if if UCF was given the opportunity, they could have gone on a run. But this is why we have the group of five teams in for good stories like this. Now it's different now with NIL and moving around to the transfer portal, but they're still college football teams. They're in FBS. So yeah, Tulane, I think they could pull off an upset, but I won't make that pick. Treydat Chambliss has to play well for Ole Miss to move on. This is not a bye week game for either of these teams. For I won't get to the other game as well, but not a bye week for Michigan. Don't act like it is. Treat this with seriousness because Tulane wants it as much as they do. And then we move on to the next game, James Madison and Oregon. Now, James Madison, I agree, was controversially in this tournament because Virginia didn't beat Duke, which I'm sorry. A 7-5 Duke team should not have been in the ACC championship game. With all the tiebreakers involved, it should have been Miami versus uh, Virginia. And who knows who would have won that game, but it would have put to rest all the speculation of Notre Dame and Miami and who should make the playoffs over who. The truth is, if Miami wins the ACC, Notre Dame is in, and Notre Dame would probably be playing Ole Miss, which would probably be a better matchup, and then Tulane would have gone out to Oregon. But we ended up with this, and the Sun Belt champion James Madison got in. And I'm not disrespecting James Madison at all. They had a good season. 12-1, their only loss was to Louisville, a team that Miami lost to as well. But I think this is going to be like I said, Oregon shouldn't look at this as a bye week game, like a game early in the season that they're paying teams to play. You gotta look at this like a intense playoff game. Like it is because James Madison's a solid team. They didn't go 12-1 on accident. They didn't. James Madison didn't. Uh, they didn't get here on accident. They worked their way up, 12-1 conference champion, and that's what they did to get in. And like I said, with the ACC's bad tiebreaker rules, which they're thankfully gonna do something about that next year, we'll see what happens because the ACC is going to. Some teams are playing nine, some teams are playing eight. That's another conversation for another time we can get into. But I think this will be a competitive matchup. Right now, it's Oregon favored by 20 and a half. I think it's going to be slightly closer, not the blowout that people think it's going to be. I think we're going to have a great game. Before we get to our bracket challenge, let's get into some other headlines. We had some sad news yesterday that former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his wife and two kids were sadly killed in a plane crash in North Carolina. So our thoughts are with the NASCAR community, his extended family, and yeah, it's tough day for NASCAR. And then Ohio's coach was fired for having an affair with a college student and for alcohol use. Reliever Michael King and the San Diego Padres agreed to a 10-year deal, 75 million. That's going to be great for that Padres bullpen, getting some good getting a good arm in there for relief. And then Nikola Jokic breaks Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record for assists by a center with 13 assists in the win over the Orlando Magic last night. And now the time you've been waiting for as I fill out the college football playoff bracket. So let's get into it. So we'll start with the first game. Alabama taking on Alabama taking on Oklahoma. To me, this, like I said, it's going to be a tough matchup. Both these teams played each other. I think Alabama will make the adjustments. I think they're going to win over Oklahoma. Miami and Texas A&M depends on which Carson Beck we're going to see in this one, but I think it's going to be a close one. But Texas A&M gets it done. Tulane and Ole Miss. Like I said, it'll be competitive, but Ole Miss triumphs in the end. James Madison and Oregon. Like I said, it's not going to be a 20-point blowout, but Oregon still finds a way to win. To the quarterfinals now, where we'll start in order of which time slot they'll be played. We'll start with the New Year's Eve game in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, Texas A&M versus Ohio State. A solid matchup, pretty good home field advantage in Texas, but Julian saying and that Ohio State offense will get it going. Give me Ohio State. The noon game in the Capital One Orange Bowl down in Miami. Oregon taking on Texas Tech. Oregon traveling all the way across the country to play Texas Tech in South Beach. So I think it's going to be, in my opinion, who has Texas Tech really played? I know they played a gauntlet of a Big 12 schedule, but I don't think anybody outside of the Big 12 they played really that good in non-conference play. So I think Oregon's more battle tested, and I think they're going to get the win. And then Alabama over against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. That's going to be a great matchup. Ty Simpson against the Heisman winner Fernando Mendoza. But I think Kirk Cignetti's boys get it done. Give me Indiana. Then Ole Miss taking on Georgia. These two teams played in between the hedges back in earlier this season. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup for both these teams. I think Georgia, I'm giving them the slight edge with no Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. And then we had Oregon taking on Indiana, a rematch from earlier this season where the Hoosiers upset the Oregon Ducks in Eugene. Playing a neutral site in Atlanta, I don't know. To be honest, it's going to be one that stumps me, but I think Indiana's run will end here. I think Oregon will make the adjustments they need. They know what happened the first time. I think Oregon will win this one. Then in the Fiesta Bowl, we got Georgia taking on Ohio State. This one from Arizona. I think it's a rematch of that New Year's Eve game in the Peach Bowl we had between these teams, which the Ohio State tried to kick a game-winning field goal at 11:59 when the ball landed when it was no good. The clock struck midnight to welcome in 2023. I think this is going to be a tough game for both these teams. I know that's a cliche I've been saying, but it's true. I like Gunnar Stockton in this one. Give me Georgia. Then a great national championship matchup between Oregon and Georgia. And now my pick to win it all. Dante Moore in Oregon making a big run to this point in the season. A couple upsets along the way. Georgia getting the first round bye, then beating Ohio State in the semifinals. Both teams definitely battle tested, but who will be battle tested more? Does Dan Lennon get his first? Does Kirby Smart get his third? In my opinion, I'm giving it to Georgia. You heard it here first. Georgia will win the national championship on January 19th in Miami. And that's going to do it for us today. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We'll be back here on Monday. And we may do some live streams later. Keep an eye out for that. But anyway, take care, guys, and we'll see you again soon.